Hi, thank you so much for joining me in the Louie file today. Today we're going to do a little piece of a word study. You know, sometimes I tell people, I say, you know, if you don't know what to read in the Bible, if you're a Bible reader and you're seeking wisdom, sometimes, for me anyway, it's worked out to be a pretty good practice to just pick a word sometimes, or maybe a word that the Lord is showing you, you know, that keeps coming up over and over again in your conversations or in just in what you're hearing throughout your day. So today we're going to look at the word meek, and we're going to tie and lowly to it, because I think they're very similar. That may give you a little hint as to where we're going. But another thing I like to do is what I've heard called the law of the first mention. So I have a concordance, and you know, you can pull a concordance off your shelf, go on the internet and look up words in the Hebrew and the Greek and whatever that's all of these ways are good. But the law of the first mention isn't necessarily you find it in your Bible in the first place that it's mentioned, and you go, oh, okay, so now I'm starting to get a little bit of an understanding of what this word means, maybe, or what the point that God's trying to make with it. You know, you can look up the word meek and find the definition, and that is what I've done here. So I'll just give you the Hebrew for meek is alnav. I'm not a Hebrew guy. I don't know how to enunciate the word, but it's A-N-A-V, and it looks like it's pronounced alnav. And it means depressed in mind, gentle, or circumstances, humble, lowly, meek, poor. So it's used to describe, actually, if you look in Numbers, I'm pretty sure, if I did my homework correctly, that this was the first place that it was mentioned. Numbers, and I find it, to me it's fascinating how we see it. Numbers 12:3, and it says, "Now the man Moses was very humble," and I have a New American Standard. I'm assuming that the King James would use the word meek here. "Now the man Moses was very meek, more than any man who was on the face of the earth." So Moses was meek. He was gentle. He was humble. He was lowly. He was not a big, arrogant, proud, boastful, look at me kind of person, is what it's essentially telling us. So the word meek in the Greek is very similar. It uses the term mild, humble, gentle. So Moses was a humble, mild, meek, lowly, gentle man. Which is kind of interesting as a side note that, if you're a Bible person and you know Moses, you know that he had a couple of moments at least. It doesn't mean he had a lifestyle of it, but he had a couple of moments where he wasn't so meek and mild, and he got very angry, and he struck a rock when God didn't tell him to. And, to me, this just kind of shows you that we all have a range of emotions. Sometimes the most quiet and reserved person isn't necessarily not as angry as you. They've just learned how to repress it or to suppress it. Maybe they're stuffing it, and then at some point it's going to come out in this manner, which is not good. But be that as it may. All right, so let's look in Deuteronomy 18. I'm going to read verses 15, and then we're going to jump to 18 and 19. You want to read all these verses, you can, but I'm trying to make this as laser focused as possible. So God promises Israel, by way of Moses, the meekest man that ever walked the earth, that he's going to raise up a prophet, somebody like Moses in the future. So look what it says, Deuteronomy 18:15. "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me," this is Moses speaking, "from among you, from your countrymen. You shall listen to him." Now Deuteronomy 18, verses 18 and 19. "I will raise up a prophet from among their countrymen like you, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. It shall come about that whoever will not listen to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him." Wow, how about that? So God is going to raise up someone like Moses in the future, and he's saying the people need to be listening to him. And that one that I'm raising up, I will give the words to, I will speak to, and he will say what I say. And then if the people don't want to listen to him, then everything that's required, that I'm requiring of them, will be on them. That's what he says, right? He shall speak to them all that I command him, and it shall come about that whoever will not listen to my words which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. Wow. So if the people don't hear what is being said through this one, which is like Moses, and they reject it, then there's going to be a requirement on them. I think that's very interesting. So now let's jump ahead, if you haven't already in your own mind. Let's jump ahead to Matthew. Let's go into the New Testament, and I'm going to show you who it is that God raised up like Moses. Look at this. Matthew 5:5, Jesus said, "Blessed are the gentle," or the meek, "for they shall inherit the earth." Matthew 11:29 says, Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle," or meek, "and humble," or lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. See, my Bible actually translates meek and lowly to gentle and humble. But you get the point, right? It's the same thing. So Jesus is saying the meek shall inherit the earth, and now he's saying, if you come to me, learn of me, I'm meek and lowly, humble and gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest that way. So Jesus is saying, listen to me, come to me. Matthew 21:5, Jesus comes into the city on a donkey, and it's related back to an Old Testament quote. Matthew 21:5, it says, "Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, gentle and mounted on a donkey, even on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden." So Jesus is the one in whom God promised Israel he was going to raise up, he was going to be like Moses. Now we know what that means to be like Moses. It means meek and lowly, gentle, humble. Humble, gentle, meek. Wow. So God is going to speak to Jesus. Jesus is going to reveal or say what God himself, his Father, says to him. And the people are going to hear it, and they're going to receive it, or they're going to reject it. If they receive it, then all is going to go well with them. If they reject it, then God, whatever that is, God is going to now put it on them. You know, this is amazing, because really the Old Testament, the law is putting it all on you. The law is saying, do not murder, do not steal, do not commit adultery, do not have any gods before God. It's got the burden is on you, right? Now, in the New Testament, Jesus is saying, look, if you're heavy laden with this, if you're wore out from this burden being on you, come to me and you'll find rest. And he's saying, this is how you're going to find rest. You learn of me, meek and lowly. Wow. So how did Jesus demonstrate this? I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but I'm going to give you the verses so you can look them up. John 5:19, Jesus said the Son can do nothing of himself unless he sees the Father do it. See, this is meek and lowly. John 5:30, he says, I can't do anything on my own. John 6:57, I live because of the Father, and you're going to live because of me. John 8:42, I've not come on my own initiative, but he sent me. John 12:49, I did not speak on my own initiative. The Father sent me, and he gave me a commandment as to what to say, what to speak. In John 14:10, Jesus says, the words I do not speak on my own. I didn't come up with this. The Father in me does his works. So Jesus is telling us right there, the words I'm sharing with you came from above, came from my Father, just exactly what God had promised Moses that he was going to do. He's going to speak to this one like Moses, and that he's just going to say, and he's going to push my word, he's going to repeat my words, and then the people will make a decision. Do I want to keep carrying this burden? Do I want to keep thinking that this command and this weight is on me, or do I want to bring it to Jesus And what do I do when I bring it to Jesus? Well, he not only takes this burden and makes it light, but what he does is he gives us insight into what it means to walk with God. It means that we don't have any power. It means that we don't have any independent eye to carry anything. That's why we're so heavy. That's why it's so heavy for us. We become meek and lowly also. We're joined to the meek and lowly one. If we're not meek and lowly, if we're not humble, and if we're not in that same attitude, mindset, or spirit, then we can't walk with Jesus as one. And therefore we will not find this rest that he's promising us. I got a few more places I want to share with you. Look in Proverbs 3. Where's Proverbs? Proverbs in the middle of our Bible, isn't it? Proverbs 3, verses 1 through 7. Oh, I love this. Proverbs 3, 1 through 7. This is wisdom speaking. My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. See, there's the danger. We will not come to Jesus, and we will not partake of this meek and lowliness that he's saying that we need to partake of, if we are wise in our own eyes. That's a big problem. We have to trust in the Lord and lean not under our own understanding. See, the world is filling us full of be a man, be independent, make your own way through life, don't let anybody else tell you what to do. Jesus is saying, well, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden. See, when we get a belly full and our backs are full of that Mr. Independence, I can do it, and I'm not going to listen to anybody else. When I get my belly full of that, and when the load is too heavy and I come to him, I start to learn exactly how Jesus lived, and it was meek and lowly. I didn't come on my own. Teaching's not my own. The things you're seeing me do is not really me. It's the Father in me, and he's doing it. So the Apostle Paul got a hold of this, and he said, Christ in you, the hope of glory. See, it's Christ in me. It's Christ in you. It's Christ in the one who is operating as God called them to operate. It's really Christ in you doing this. All right, I got one more thing to share with you. Look in Psalm 37, and we'll finish up for today. Psalm 37, verse 4. Says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Wow. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Here's another quick little word study. The word delight here means, in the Hebrew, to make yourself pliable, moldable. In other words, teachable. We have to be open. See, pride is not teachable. Pride thinks they got it all figured out. Humility, meekness, lowliness means there's way more that I don't know than there is that I do know, and I'm willing and ready to admit that in order for me to come to know more and to understand more. So I have to be ready to change. I have to be ready to change my opinion. I have to be open to teaching from the Lord. If I'm not that, then I'm hardened and I'm stiff, and I can't be moved. You know, the Bible, God called his people, Israel, a few times in the Old Testament, stiff-necked, implying that he couldn't put his yoke on them. You know, you try to put a yoke on some oxen that are stiffened up, it's not going to work. You can't work with a stiff neck. You have to have a pliable neck, a pliable heart. Ezekiel tells us that God's going to take away our stony heart and give us a heart of flesh, one that is more pliable, receiving of him. All right, I could go on and on about this, but I think this is sufficient for now. Moses was the meekest man on the earth. God raised up one like him, Jesus Christ, and who defined himself as meek and lowly, and that he couldn't do anything apart from his Father. So there you have it. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me on the Louie File today.